You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome in once again to another rockin' awesome Saturday night, as we always say, up here at the Six Screens. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the hub of the universe, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And boy, do we have a great program here tonight. Watchtower Insider Barbara Anderson Tells All. Now, she has got a very special guest coming on here tonight. I know you're going to enjoy this program. Don't go anywhere. A former Jehovah's Witness. Her name is Mira Cassidy. Wow, what a woman she is, a very accomplished woman. She is a domestic violence survivor. She also deals with, she's a specialist in religious trauma. Did you ever hear that term before? You know, many people, when they're in religions, and even when they leave religions, they suffer what they call religious trauma. Well, Myra's going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Boy, I'll tell you, she is an accomplished woman, like I say. She's also an empowerment coach, and she's a motivational speaker. Wow, we have got a really good guest coming on here tonight. Barbara did her homework and was so appreciative to have Myra on with us. Now, I'm going to play a little clip of Myra. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it. We'll play it for 2 or 3 minutes, get a little idea who Myra is, and then we're going to bring Barbara on, and we're going to have a great interview here tonight. So let's play a little bit of this right now. Let me just make sure we get the clip up nice and big so you can see it. Let me just extend it here so it's nice and full screen, which it is right now. Let me now go back to StreamYard. We have to go back and forth a little bit, but let's play the clip. Let's share it. 1 second. Just 1 second. Make sure the sound is okay. Okay, we'll stop right. Let me get the sound straightened out. This is Myra.
Hello, and happy October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm Myra Cassidy, empowerment coach, motivational speaker, writer, and survivor of domestic violence. And you are watching Myra's Women's Empowerment Retreat right here on WHMB 40. Allow me to explain. Last year, for the first time, I had the amazing opportunity of putting on my first in-person event, and it was an amazing day. This year, this opportunity presented itself. So I thought, why not bring this information to raise awareness, to encourage, to inspire, and to help survivors heal? No place else than right here at WHMB 40. That's exactly what we're going to do today. Now, please keep in mind that this show is for informational purposes. And if you
Well, there you have it. There you have it. That's Myra. And boy, I'll tell you, she's going to be quite the guest for Barbara's program here tonight. Well, let's bring Barbara Anderson on. You got a little a little preview there of Myra. Let's bring Barbara on. Barbara, could you hear and see that okay?
Oh, very, very clear. Yeah, excellent. I think the way she talked in this, you could tell it wasn't a recent video. I think it's a year old. This is something that's been out there a little bit, but it gives everybody an idea of what she's into. She's quite a gal. She has PTSD. She's a PMO. Usually men call themselves PMOs, I think. But anyway, she's going to explain all of this. She's from Indianapolis and was raised as a witness. What a background she has, and yet to go through what she has gone through regarding domestic abuse. In fact, Rick, when you were advertising the banner of her appearance and interview tonight, you received, I noted this because it was on when you sent this out, someone responded and said these words. It was a woman, and she said, "I'm an XJW domestic abuse survivor. I left once with my 12-year-old daughter, but dragged back under threat of disfellowshipping. I hate this cult with a passion." Who would have ever thought? I certainly didn't when I became a witness, and certainly, Rick, you wouldn't have felt that way, or that it would turn out that way, that anyone could hate this cult with a passion. We went door to door. We were helping people we thought. We loved it with a passion. And yet, as time has gone by, we have seen what this cult, as it's commonly being called now, has done to people's lives. So let's get on with the show now.
Very, very good. Well, let's bring your guest on, and we can introduce her to the audience. Why don't you do that right now, Barbara?
Hey there, Mira.
Hey. Hello, Miss Barbara. Hello, Rick. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Do you have another part of that program that?
Yeah, let me bring it up. If we can kind of start where we left off, if you like, we go a little bit further. Is there anything in particular? Yeah, let's. I guess we have a couple of people on the couch there. Let's just do this. Hold on one second.
And Margaret, you can explain if you'd like to do that.
Sure. So yeah, oh my goodness, I haven't seen that clip in a while. That's actually from, let's see, 2023. That was October 2023. I had the wonderful opportunity to put together a women's empowerment retreat, which basically was a television show where I interviewed different survivors of domestic violence. I interviewed Firefly Family and Children Alliance, which is a wonderful organization locally, and also was someone who helped to sponsor the show along with other individuals and bring that information out to the Indianapolis area and surrounding areas. So what we did was I interviewed other survivors.
Whoop. Did we lose Myra? Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think we got Myra frozen there. Give her a second. Myra, you back with us? Myra's a little froze up, but don't worry, we'll get it right back on here with us. I think her video.
Okay.
I think you're back with us, Myra. Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. Yep. Okay. Sorry about that. I hope our connection stays strong. But this is me actually interviewing two survivors, mother and daughter. Very powerful because domestic violence, it also has a generational element to it. So this mother broke free, and then she worked to help her family be healthy and to break free from their abusive situation. So this is actually a mother-daughter, which is why I'll stop there and let the clip play.
All right, let's play the clip. 1 second. All right. Hold on.
Welcome, ladies. How are you today?
Welcome. We thank you for welcoming us here. We're great. We're great.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have you here supporting this retreat because your family just blows me away. It's just an awesome story about your family and how you work together to heal. So I want to tell our audience all about it. I guess I'll start off with telling them kind of how we connected. Does that sound good, ladies?
Yes, sure.
We met at a domestic violence network event called Healing the Community. And when I heard, what it was about, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go support this. And there was a really interesting piece that really got me there. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But I met this wonderful family and wanted to bring this to everyone else in Central Indiana and surrounding counties. So tell me, what is Sister to Sister? And how did Sister to Sister evolve to Sister Circle for domestic violence survivors. Tell me your journey.
Absolutely. Sister to Sister was birthed in 2018. The Lord had gave me the vision of Sister to Sister, and it was just for women coming together because we wear so many hats and we don't have a place for an outlet. We don't have a place to vent. And so the Lord had told me to form this group, this ministry, so women can come together so that they can be able to vent, relax, have fun, enjoy themselves, no children, no husband involved, you know what I mean? So it's just us, so we can be able to have a conversation, not a conversation, it's conversation. And we talk about different topics, you know what I mean, from domestic violence, heart to heart. We did one in August, and it was called Replanting. Every time we meet, every quarter is something different, every different subjects, you know what I mean? And it's about a healing. And that my motto is healing from the inside out. You know what I mean? Because we're so damaged sometime in the inside, and we portray something different on the outside.
Absolutely.
And I did that for so long. I wore the mask very well, and no one never knew that I was in a domestic violence marriage or a situation. No one ever knew that in my family unless I told them, because I always smiled, always had this smile on my face. I always looked proper, and I wore makeup to cover up the scars. You know.
We'll pause it right there for a second, and maybe you guys would like to comment on that a little bit. It's very, very fascinating. Boy, it's a great program, it looks like. Go ahead, speak up, Barbara.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, unfortunately, it was a one-time airing, which is why it was kind of like a special, like an on-air retreat. I wanted to reach as many people as I could because the year before it was an in-person event. And as I kind of grew and just met more people, I got an idea, well, if I bring this to television, I can reach more women with this information and make sure to just do a greater part to get people resources and let people know and to raise awareness. So that opportunity came around. Wonderful opportunity, but unfortunately it was a one-time event. This year I did do another women's empowerment retreat, and it was different. What I did was not only bring a trauma-informed workshop to the community, but I also presented my one-woman stage play, which is actually based off of my 2018 self-published book, Let Mia Tell It. So I brought that information to a stage play as a one-woman stage play. And then afterwards, I taught a trauma-informed workshop. And Ms. Barbara, may I speak on the individual who was a survivor that we talked about before? May I share something about that, if I may?
Yeah, yes, please do.
Okay, you know, it just hurts my heart because I've lived this journey, right? I've lived this space.
Yes,
and when we're talking,
I'm going to interrupt you a little as you go
absolutely
on here, because you've been very damaged, just like this fine lady here said, the damage on the inside. And women don't show it. We hold, you hold it in, and so you put a smile on your face. But isn't it wonderful to know, for everyone to hear, that women are doing something about this? And you're one in my book here, but there's plenty of gals out there that are working in behalf of their sisters.
Yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, absolutely.
I am so proud to know you and what this work is doing to help women. And so we're going to talk about your personal life that made you have a situation that you needed help yourself. So can you continue? But I'll interrupt you here and there to ask questions. So you go on with explaining this point you're going to make.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Just with the individual who shared when we first kind of started, that's one reason why this work is so important that I do. Not only can you see what happens to a survivor of domestic violence, but the children. And on that broadcast, when Firefly Family and Children Alliance came on and spoke, they spoke even more about the effects that domestic violence has on children. And actually, children get it worse. the effects. One of the things that I share in my workshop is adverse childhood experiences. And the whole study of adverse childhood experiences is to show how the things that happen in childhood affect us as an adult. And what happens is when you have an ACE score that is high, your lifespan is becoming shorter and shorter by seconds to minutes to days to weeks to hours. So it's definitely traumatic and definitely a terrible experience. And the healing is gruesome. The healing is gruesome for an adult woman, so even more so for children. So definitely another thing I want to share about that, when there's religion involved, what I've had to learn from myself, which is how I became a religious trauma specialist, because I could not see how much of that was like an umbrella for everything, if you will, an umbrella for everything. And I had to learn because another survivor of domestic violence pointed it out to me and challenged me to learn more, which in the long term, you know, I ended up doing that work, which is how I discovered religious trauma. My neighbor is out here, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. But that's how I ended up going to Indiana Wesleyan University and studying psychology. Graduating this December, I'll be done, and looking forward to using all that I've learned to help women on a bigger platform as far as my own group coaching. So Barbara, can I share some resources? I'm sorry, it's so loud. I didn't expect that. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, clear as could be. Just
okay. Can I share some resources? Is that okay?
Yeah, why not? Sure.
Okay. I wanted to speak about the religious trauma syndrome that I have.
Oh, well, let's see. You're going to share resources, but we need to know, how did you get religious trauma?
Yes. So thank you. So I would like to give official definitions and then resources, because I have to say thank you to all of the individuals in the religious trauma space who are mentors to me, who I've taken training courses by. And I want to definitely say thank you to those individuals. But first, let me give a clear definition of what religious trauma is and religious trauma syndrome, because there's difference. And this is information that I got from Michelle Mosley, who's a therapist and a religious trauma. Religious trauma is her specialty. And she not only
there was such a specialist. I mean, I can picture religious trauma. I can see the words, they fit. But or have you to help with this specifically?
Yeah, and I have a passion for this because it's amazing how so many people have the same story no matter what religion they belong to.
Like the one I read.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I read it. I couldn't, I said, my gosh, this is
the pain.
Because of what she went through.
It's grief. And I want to stress, because that's one of my whys. I have children too.
How many
and
do you have?
I have three. Yes, I have one that's 23. I have a 20-year-old. And then
20-year-old.
Thank you. And my youngest daughter is 13. And I can see the effects in different ways in my children's lives. So when I understood just how much religious trauma was affecting me, I'm going, well, what about the kids? Because I knew that with domestic violence, what that does to children. Right. I knew the horrors of it, the importance of getting support, the importance of helping them build resiliency. But then when you go religious trauma, well, how do you help children with this? But this is an emerging field. And I want to stress that this is an emerging field. And let me share with you what the problem is. OK, before I go into the definitions and things. It's not an official diagnosis. This is not in the DSM. Okay. Keep in mind that currently I'm a student, and after I graduate, I'll start as a coach in this area, but I'm not a therapist or anything like that. But I received training, and I have a mentor myself who has escaped 5 cults, who is a wonderful individual who's helping me get the training that I need and kind of take me to the next level with what I'm trying to do. So let me go ahead and stress that that's the number one thing for the therapist in this area, is that they can't bill for religious trauma. They have to use different things for billing purposes. So please understand that it's not an official diagnosis yet. And it is an emerging field. But let me give you a definition of what it is, because people talk about church hurt. You know, I had a survivor, beautiful survivor, another colleague of mine in the domestic violence space. When we talk, you know, we talk about, oh, that's church hurt. That's church hurt. My pastor did
I
this.
never
My
heard
pastor
that
did
before.
that. It's
Yeah.
church hurt. This is way different than just church hurt. It is a different definition.
Okay.
The world of religious trauma has its own vocabulary in a sense. So let me go ahead and share some information. And thank you to Michelle Mosley, because this is information that I learned from a training course with her, and she trains other individuals in this space as well. So thank you very much for that. This definition was brought together by Dr. Marlene Winnell, also the Religious Trauma Institute, and other individuals in this space who have started to define terms. Now, Dr. Marlene Winnell, key figure. I had the opportunity to chat with Dr. Winnell. She's a fascinating individual, beautiful woman, beautiful person, but she actually is the one that is credited with officially pinning religious trauma syndrome. I believe it was 2011. But yet, look how many years ago that was, and it's still not in the
Yes.
DSM. Okay, but let me give you a few definitions. So, religious trauma is defined as this, okay? The physical, emotional, or psychological response to religious beliefs, practices, or structures that overwhelm an individual's ability to cope and return to a sense of safety. That's one definition. But then you can go further and you get, like I unfortunately have, religious trauma syndrome. Now, that is this: a set of symptoms and characteristics that are related to harmful experiences with religion and are the result of immersion in a high control religion and the secondary impact of leaving a religious group. And that's where it kind of gets sticky with my own journey. I do describe myself as a PMO. And PMO, for me, I'm still learning. I don't have all the answers, but for me, PMO is a spectrum. You know, we learn about the bell curve, right? You know, it's the bell curve is, long story short, another way of measuring things, like the bell curve. But it's a spectrum, long story short. So people fall on the spectrum in different places. So for me, that's the best way that I can describe what I am and what I'm trying to do. Because unfortunately, with religious trauma syndrome, what happened for me, and something that I've shared on other platforms, is one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. And all of a sudden I looked at my bookshelf, and this bookshelf that had all the Watchtowers and Awakes and the books on it, for some reason I couldn't breathe. I got up out the bed and I started to rip everything off this bookshelf. All the Watchtowers, all the Awakes, all the books. And I just threw them in a box in the garage. And after that, I could breathe. And I was like, what just happened? And that was the night.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that was the night that it all triggered for me.
Yeah.
And it became a trigger. So the way I live and exist is I just stay as far away as I can from it, because it's not a safe place for me. Right.
Yes.
And when you're talking about religious trauma syndrome, you have to step back. Right. And for a while, it's a long journey. My journey is very complicated, but I was still going to the Kingdom Hall and literally having like panic attacks. And because I didn't understand that I was walking into my trigger. And it took mental health professionals and other people supporting me to say, one individual brought it to me like this: every time you go to the Kingdom Hall, you're electrocuting yourself. You have to stop. You have to stop, and you have to step back. And that's also a part of the healing process in this space. You have to actually literally disconnect to even attempt to heal. But let me go ahead.
There are people who are listening who
Mhm.
probably have walked in your shoes and don't realize that they have this type of trauma. But there are angry people on the internet who were witnesses, has left them terribly marked inwardly. That they're angry. They have all sorts of issues, and they would like a healing. So they identify with you. But you came from, now we're gonna go a little bit different here, because we're gonna go back, because I want people to hear how you got in this sinking boat, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So I see.
I'm so sorry, Miss Barbara. I'm so sorry, Miss Barbara. Can I say my thank yous real quick? Is that okay?
Why?
Can I say my thank yous real quick? Is that okay?
Why don't you do that? Because now we do have quite a bit of time here, but this is about you.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Miss Barbara. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. I forgot about, because if I keep going, I'll forget about the thank yous and I'll forget about the resources. And I always want to walk a walk of gratitude.
Well,
because
remember, this is like a conversation in my living room, and we women all interrupt each other. Every woman knows this. So, and the men just sit there and go, "Ay, ay, ay." So
I'm so sorry. Yeah, thank you.
So
thank
don't
you.
worry about it.
Okay.
Everybody identifies who is a female here.
Okay.
And
okay. I don't want to
you do your thing here, but I'm going to get you to the beginning, because this didn't happen early. You came from a perfect witness family. So do your thank yous now, and then we'll leave.
Thank you so much, because I would not be standing here first and foremost, or still even be alive, if it wasn't for a lot of people helping me from all different backgrounds. I mean, people who are Black Nazarites to Quakers to Christians. I've had a lot of support and a lot of help. So from all over. So I want to say thank you to people in the space of religious trauma who've been so supportive, like Dr. Marlene Winnell of journeyfree.org, like Nikki G. Hey, Nikki, of Surviving the Black Church, Michelle Mosley. Thank you so much for your assistance and your support and your training. And Dr. Alicia Powell. A few things. The Global Center for Religious Research actually has a religious trauma studies certificate program if anyone's interested in that. Haven't met her yet, but Laura Anderson has a phenomenal platform called it's Religious Trauma Institute. And she even talks about how she got physically ill from religion. So she has a whole platform of that. Also, as far as resources with religion and domestic violence, the National Network to End Domestic Violence, always there's a domestic violence hotline. A few more things, okay? Nikki G. Nikki G has a platform, Surviving the Black Church podcast. And she's from Arlington, Texas, and they have a Black Religious Trauma Recovery Network. The thing that's interesting for me as an African American is you see human behavior is similar. So surviving Black church, surviving Black Kingdom Hall trauma, very similar. Pretty much the same thing. Yes. The religions are different. The human behavior is the same. So you have surviving Black church trauma, surviving Black Kingdom Hall trauma, same thing. So I'm definitely thrilled about Nikki G and all her work, and with her individuals that she works with as well. I spoke about Michelle Mosley. Thank you so much. Excellent at training therapists and individuals who are needing continuing education courses. She does group therapy. You can find her at MichelleFMosley.com. Okay, Michelle, 2 L's. Michelle F. Mosley, MOSELEY.com. Okay, /religious-trauma-group. And really, you can find her all on social media. Yeah. Therapy with Michelle, like therapy_with_Michelle is her IG. She's on Facebook. She even has a blog. So definitely, she's out of North Carolina. So if anyone is in that area, you can contact her and get involved with her group therapy, one-on-one sessions, and all her other services.
Is this expensive? I
love this question. Just like and I can go on and on about that. So
Okay.
everyone like with regular therapy, everyone charges, right, different amounts. I'm not sure about everyone's pricing, from Nikki G to Michelle Mosley, or even Dr. Winnell. I don't know if Dr. Winnell still does one-on-one sessions. She does have um, group therapy sessions and her own group of individuals. They're more of professionals who are atheists, who come together and they talk about different things. And then Dr. Alicia Powell also has a counseling service, and she specializes in couples, religious trauma, and work-life balance. The pricing, you got to call them for the pricing. However, I understand that question. And the reason why I paused is because I struggled to find a therapist for me and my children, to the point that I quit. I was like, I promised my kids we're never doing therapy again. Right. And I decided to do it myself. So, that's one of the reasons why I ended up going to Indiana Wesleyan University, because we couldn't get the help.
I see.
I even at one point, this is a little fun fact. At one point, when I was first getting diagnosed with PTSD in 2015, I was still married to my abuser. I actually connected with a therapist that was a witness. She was, yes, okay. Her husband was an elder. She herself was a pioneer. And this was in 2015. And what she told me blew my mind. She told me, don't go to the elders.
Well,
She said, don't go to the elders. She said, they don't know how to unite. They don't understand the cycles of abuse. They think they can go from A to B and that's it. She said, what you do? And at that point, I wasn't as bad off as I was now, which is why I'm such an advocate, because I learned about religious trauma through my studies of thinking at Indiana Wesleyan University, and coming up with a plan and how I wanted to help and how I wanted to teach and what I wanted to do, and started kind of asking more questions and doing more research, and stumbled up on it. I kept Googling or researching spiritual abuse. And one day I said, it's not spiritual abuse. This is trauma. And I went into the EBSCO engine, which is the official researching engine, and said religious trauma. There you have it.
So it's not the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses that you were raised to, and you, seems to me, you still hold on to some of their beliefs. So what is the trauma that's connected with Jehovah's Witnesses?
It's really, well, I've had the religious trauma ever since I was a kid, pretty much, right? A big part of my journey, and me talking about my one-woman stage play, it starts off with me. My stage play starts off with me being sexually assaulted while at a slumber party at a sister's house from the Kingdom Hall. And I wasn't heard. So I'm going to the same Kingdom Hall with this boy who was a few years older than me that tried to rape me. And I'm in this space. So all of that in itself is just trauma. It's layered. And with a lot of people who have different traumas, it's layered. So my trauma has been layered for a very, very long time, but it gets even worse when I became a victim of domestic violence and going to the elders, which in my journey, I'm very open. I went to 17 elders. 17.
Oh my goodness.
That is a ridiculously amount of people.
Same congregation or different congregation?
Different congregations. It was 17 elders over different congregations, primarily 2 main congregations and other individuals like my dad.
Your dad was an elder, and your mother pioneered. You got 3 brothers.
She pioneered as a young lady, but my dad is still an elder. Yep.
All right. Mm-hmm. You've got 2 brothers that are witnesses, and you've got one who's out of the organization. Mm-hmm. And but this guy you married, was he in the congregation or?
Okay, so let me talk about that. So yep. Going back to the roots, Barbara. Going back to the roots, right?
Yeah, the rotten roots. The rotten roots.
Right. Okay. So for me, I'm very open about it, right? I didn't understand the connection from my childhood trauma and other things that caused me to act out sexually. And this individual that I ended up marrying and being with for 20 years was raised a witness to. Long story short, his mother, pioneer, still is a pioneer. Okay. So first and foremost, I should never have been sneaking around having a boyfriend, right? Whether you're a witness or not, right? If your parents set rules, you're to follow that. I didn't, right? So 15 years old, I had intercourse with this, I call him Calvin to hide identity in my book and in my play. So I get in trouble with Calvin, who's 17 years old. And that's what starts the private reproof and then the public reproof. Because for some reason, I just could not get away from Calvin. I just could not get away from him. I just kept getting same person. Now I understand that, narcissism, and that he definitely is a narcissist, and that he was that way from before he even met me. Right. This is something that presents itself in childhood from my studies and from just the study of narcissism in general. So he already was who he was anyway. But long story short, no, I should have been secretly dating, right? I shouldn't have been sneaking out, right? I shouldn't have been doing these things. But unfortunately, this is what led to me becoming pregnant at the age of 17 and getting disfellowship. I was disfellowship from the ages of 17 to 21. I was disfellowship. Is that right? 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. I was 20. I had to think for a minute. I got married at 21. So from 17 to 20, I was disfellowship. So I was disfellowship 3 years, 5 months, and 1 day. So when I was disfellowship, same guy, couldn't get same guy. But at the same time, it was always abusive. One of the scenes that I act out in my play, sorry, I'm outside. The reason why my play is so important is because it's an avenue for me to heal. As I mentioned before, I didn't have success with therapy, and I discovered drama therapy. So when I do my play, I'm actually giving myself self-help. And one of the scenes in my play, I act out being in the car with Calvin and telling him, I'm baptized and you're not. If we continue to have intercourse, I'm going to get disfellowshipped. And in that car on that night, Calvin did not care. I'm starting to cry, but he wanted to have intercourse and he pulled me on him, and that's what took place. I didn't even understand that that's rape. That's rape.
Yes.
So that's what, and I ended up, of course, in time getting disfellowshipped. Still being disfellowshipped, it was always Calvin. I'll try to leave him alone, do good for a little bit, then here he comes. So for all that time, sorry about the background noise, 3 years, 5 months, 1 day, it was always Calvin. And during that time, so I say all of that to say he was who he was. He was always an abuser. When I was
Why were you
years
so
old,
attracted to an abuser? What made you
good question.
go back to him constantly? Somewhere in your childhood, or is this? Sometimes we are what we are, and we learn, and we have to learn the hard way. That's what my mother used to say. Well, you're gonna have to learn the hard way. Didn't your mother ever say that to you?
Not that, but other things. But I get your point. You know what? She used to always say, "A hard head makes a soft butt." That's what she used to say. But you know what? I love this question, Barbara, and thank you for asking it, because it's a very, very important piece. Okay. Domestic violence runs in my family tree. So what I'm saying is this. And I share this in my book, I share this in my play. I'm very open about my experiences to help people, to help heal, and to put this information out here. So this is the way it goes. Okay. My mother, okay, she got baptized with her mother and her father at the age of 15 as Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay. But my mother, on that side of the family, my grandmother was being abused. Long story short, my grandfather would hit her on the top of the head all the time. That was like his go-to spot. Now I can see that that's probably because no one would know.
I see.
If you're getting hit on the top of the head, and that's always what's happening. So long story short, when my mother is 17 years old, mind you, she's only been a witness for 2 years, her mother dies. from an aneurysm as a
Really?
result
Oh my.
as a result of all the blows to the head.
Oh.
And this is another thing about domestic violence. I myself have had to go get checked out because when we're being shooken up and dragged around and all of that, we can get brain damage. The back and it's like the back and the forth and all of that, it can cause long-term effects. So I even encourage women, please go get yourself checked out. I was able to find a resource that did free testing for women who were survivors of domestic violence. And thank goodness everything was okay, right? And this is a witness I was married to. He ended up getting baptized, long story short, before we got married. But ended up being dragged down the steps when I was pregnant, choked, strangulation. You're 7 times more likely to die by strangulation if you've been strangled once. So he would strangle me, all of these things. So I encourage individuals to always get checked out. So domestic violence is a part of my family tree, even before, on my mother's side, before they even became witnesses. Okay. On my dad's side, domestic violence present as well. Okay. My grandmother was a victim of domestic violence. Now, my grandfather, he never became a witness, but my grandmother, my aunties, my dad, they all did. So my grandmother, victim of violence, my aunt, okay, one of Jehovah's Witnesses, married a witness and was abused. Okay, but she ended up divorcing him, and that's a part of the generational curse. You know, I call it the generational curse. I'm the cycle breaker, right? So that's a whole nother story. There's a lot of disconnect between me and my family, long story short. Because of all of this, they supported the abuser. They did not support me. Even my aunt, who was a victim, she did not share with me her journey. She was always very quiet about it and things like that. And by the time she really even shared, anything, that I was already divorced. I was already like, why are you even telling me this now? You telling me that your witness husband slapped you is doing nothing for me now. I needed you all those other years. I needed your journey, all that before. So definitely I have a lot of, trauma from my family. And pretty much when we talk about cults, okay, your family can be a cult. It's a narcissistic family dynamic. And unfortunately, like many other people, like many other women, no matter what religion, I ended up marrying what I knew. My dad and my mom, there's not abuse there per se. Definitely there still is like emotional things that I can see that my dad does and things like that, but the physical abuse and all that was not present. So I never knew about domestic violence. The aha moment, this is domestic violence, that happened when I was disfellowshipped and 19 years old. And Calvin, as I call him, he got mad and he kicked open the door and he attacked me in front of our 1-year-old at the time. And from all of that confusion, he gets locked up in jail and all of that,
So you called the authorities. Is that what you did?
I did. Right, because as he's getting ready to knock in the door, and I don't know what's going on, I called 911. And then from that, going to court, I was given this pamphlet about domestic violence, and I chose to go. And that's how I started learning what domestic violence was. However, it took me 10 years on and off to finally break free. I kept going to domestic women's counseling services and stopping. And then unfortunately, a big part of my journey, and I depict this in my play, was when I got reinstated and came back to the Kingdom Hall. Unfortunately, within 6 months of time, I had well-meaning friends and family started to convince me to let Calvin back in my life, this abuser. Well, because I was so damaged, I listened. I thought that everybody knew better, right? I'm the sinner. I'm the one who was disfellowshipped 3 years, 5 months, and 1 day. It must be me. It must be me. So he got baptized, we got married, and then 3 months later, he took a Tupperware dish full of food and threw it at my head. And and it was just so terrible, the things in the life that I lived. It was just terrible. One thing I would say about,
And,
obviously,
and yeah, and there are those who are listening right now who identify with you. They've gone through this experience. We sure don't want to trigger them by listening to this.
yeah, we don't.
No, and but yes, we have to face reality. And for those who have escaped, like you have, and made sense out of your life, you're to be congratulated. And to help others, you're so useful to help others because you don't only talk about it, you do something about it. And that's why you will continue to be of help to others. So, so many therapists never experienced what their patients experience. So
that's so true. You have to live when you live it. Yeah.
You're so that as far as somebody coming to you and who's been abused, you walk the walk at one time, and and they understand that you care and that you understand what this does. I've never been in a situation like that. I really have great sadness that women have to go through this, especially when you have children. So, this is what the saddest part about this is, that the horror of abuse is bad enough, but you don't get any help with this religion. And a lot of religions are like that. I was reading 2 articles today out of two mega churches just recently, or the past year. They had ministers who were well known in their religion, but it was mega church, so you had thousands of people assembling at the church, and they lived a life of dedication to this church. And then they find out that their minister was an abuser. And so in our case with the witnesses, not only do we have abusers, we didn't have any listeners.
Exactly.
And
there
so,
you go.
Yeah. And this is the saddest thing about the whole deal. If you love the religious beliefs, and that stabilizes you to think, oh, we got a better future. But how do you live presently with an abuser? And in so many cases, it is the elder themselves. That's why they don't have any sympathy for the women who come to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I had to learn, right, that some of the individuals who I was going to for help were abusers. That's tough.
And they make decisions on to disfellowship. We know of so many cases where, well, I hear it all the time, where people have sinned and they go on and they have a judicial hearing, and the people who are sitting in judgment of them are worse than the sin that they come. This is ridiculous. It shouldn't be. Shouldn't be that we have to do this. There should be no sitting in judgment of a fellow Christian or a fellow. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christian, but of the same belief, that for them to sit in judgment. If you're a religious believer, leave it to God to judge. In the Catholic Church and some of the other ones, they think, God's going to do the judging. They're going to burn them in hell, maybe, or whatever. But people, we have authorities. We have legal authorities to make judgment calls. I could go on all day about this. This is the worst possible thing for Jehovah's Witnesses, and they are in big hot water everywhere now, where the authorities have taken a second look at them, because they should never have been in a position to tell others what they're doing wrong, because we're all imperfect. We all you know, you hear that word imperfect and all that stuff. You shouldn't have to hear those things. And the results are bad. That's the whole thing. If the results were good from it, that would be different, but it's not that way. And you are an example of trauma causing you almost to lose your life. Either by
Definitely, I've been through things. I mean, really, with that part, with when I talk about, you know, I could have lost my life. I was suicidal in my
that's the
marriage.
whole thing, the suicides.
Yeah,
I'm hearing about this every week.
yeah,
I am
yeah,
so just I'm not traumatized. That's for sure. I'm angry.
Mhm.
I'm angry because of all of the women who just last week. Good Lord, the shoot themselves in the head. They finally have had enough of this. There's one
Yeah.
gal on telling her experiences on the net, and so many of her friends, women have killed themselves because of these circumstances. And
Yeah, and I
is the worst part of it all. When you're in trouble, and then they make more trouble for you when they disfellowship you. They're trying now to put on a better image, but you can't erase the past. So the domestic of the violence that you went through. So, but how do you feel? And of course, this is personal, but how do you? It's religious. It's personal about your religious belief. But so you're still a believer in the Bible.
Yeah, I am. So that's why I say I'm a PMO, right? And for me, a PMO, and I'm still doing research, and I had to figure out how I felt about the word PMO. And this is all things that I've learned through my religious trauma studies, being physically in and mentally out. So yeah, I still have very limited communications with the Kingdom Hall. They know about my play. Okay, they know about my play. We've had the conversation about religious trauma because I asked the question. I said, I have religious trauma. Does Bethel have anything for people like me? And when I found out no, and I got the answer, which I'm not, I try to be as balanced as I can because I never want to discourage any elder who wants to really do better and wants to talk to me. I never want to discourage that conversation. So I know that some things that were said to me was a part of information control that came down from Bethel, right? But we're just a religious organization. That's a gaslighting term, which is why I'm building a community where that's a gaslighting term. And when we're talking about, you know, because the whole thing about it, I said, you know, for me, I'm physically in, mentally out. I do different things. So it's not safe. And I say also, I'm a PMO by force. Okay.
Interesting.
I'm a PMO by force, right? I didn't choose. I didn't really choose this. These terrible things happened to me because you did it. It's called religious trauma syndrome. You did it. You did it. And to hear things like almost it's like we're saying yes we did it but we're not going to do anything about it. It's kind of how some of the conversations have went when I've talked about that. I said I have proof that I have religious trauma syndrome. It's like, oh well, we can't go back and address all the other elders who didn't do what they were supposed to do, these other 17 elders. We can't go back. Actually, you could if you wanted to. You don't want to. And
they're not trained to do that either, and they know it. That's why they don't want to go back to this. It is a terrible situation that these men are put into to deal with something that they don't know anything about. It's just like they call them, they're ministers. Jehovah's Witnesses men considered a minister. Well, you know, they've never been introduced into what a minister does, what is expected of a minister, a training program. You think that they are because the society has introduced these elder classes, you know, elder school, and but they only began after the last few years that I was at Bethel, when all of the child abuse, it was slowly coming out. And when they realized that they had to do something about it, that it was big, then they started introducing these programs, and they would have that weekend school for elders around the country, and bring up child abuse. That was, in the 90s. And so more and more they were introducing things that shouldn't be in the hands of elders. They're not trained to assist other people's trauma.
Exactly. And one thing I want to thank you so much for that, Ms. Barbara, because one thing I learned that I was shocked to find out as I'm learning more information in my journey was that one pastor told me that a part of his training was you're taught if someone comes to you with the same issue 3 times, you're required to say you need to go seek medical professional help. You need to go seek professional help.
That's
and I
wonderful, because the society did the opposite. Absolutely did the opposite. No, you couldn't seek professional help. They would introduce to you that if you go out there, you go into Satan's world.
Yeah, I had those conversations, right? When some elders found out I was going to domestic women's violence services, couldn't get the help from them. It's, oh, you're listening to these worldly people, And when you look at domestic violence, the God's Love book, for example, it said that the elders would investigate the charges. How do you investigate the charges? Many of them don't even know what domestic violence is, and I'm very open about the fact that I recorded my ex abusing me and show the elders the recording, and they said that they did not see domestic violence. I have that same video on my YouTube page as a teachable moment, and it's actually me getting abused. It's this is not okay. This is not okay, which is one reason why I will start coaching my own group coaching as a coach, and then for anything that if anyone from this group of women that I'm trying to coach wants to see, a therapist and things like that, I definitely will do those referring out. But what I'm trying to do is build a community for women who have had my similar experiences and who are also, PMOs or on that PMO spectrum who have religious trauma syndrome. So what I find to kind of touch on some things we said earlier, because I want the audience to understand, physically in, mentally out. So yes, I still am assigned to my local congregation. I turn in time every month. I don't go to the Kingdom Hall, and I stress and I stay fixed in my position. I don't go because I can't. I am traumatized. If I read,
what happens to you when you even pass a Kingdom Hall?
Yeah, I'll have a panic attack. I have a panic attack.
Right.
If I try to read the Bible, right? If I try to read the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, I'll have a panic attack. But think about this, Miss Barbara. When it first triggered, I didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah.
And all the shame and the guilt. And then and then I learned about religious trauma years later, only to find out that people from other religions have the same symptoms. They cry because they can't read their Bible, and the pain you feel. You feel a sense of guilt when you've done nothing wrong. Yeah. Now, going to Indiana Wesleyan University has kind of helped me with that. Like I learned that I can read certain things and certain I'm still a spiritual person, of course. I can read certain passages and things like that online, or I can tolerate a certain amount of the English Standard Version Bible. So that's my go-to, ESV. But if I try to read New World Translation, I'll have a panic attack. And that's classic, typical trauma. It's normal. It's normal. Yeah. So for me, I only know witness, right? And there's a certain element for some people where it's so much of your core belief that if you try to walk completely away from it, it can have the opposite effect, right? You can start having suicidal ideations. Like if I tried, let's say, for example, if I tried to have a birthday party, well, the guilt would be so overwhelming, it would be so unhealthy for me. So I had to figure out what I believe, right? This is a part of what's called deconstruction. Oh. It's called deconstruction. You have to figure out where you want to be in this world, right? And it took a long time. I found there's Facebook support groups out there for different spectrums. Some people are non-religious at all. Some people are. I found a support group through Facebook where some people do choose to deconstruct. I call it deconstruct without deconversion. So the way I apply it is I stay as far away as possible from the Kingdom Hall, and I do the best I can with what I got.
Well,
But this is why I'm building the community for women.
well, you succinctly analyzed that and expressed it, so we understand. Now, a gal by the name of Ruby, she's asking you, Myra, why not leave the organization altogether?
She said, why not leave it altogether?
Yeah, leave the organization altogether.
Thank you, Ruby, and thank you for your question. I had to figure, I will say that at one point, the night that I talked about that it triggered, I did. I became inactive for 2 years. And I was in this place, which now I understand it. It was just rumination. I used to always write on a piece of paper, the truth is my trauma. The truth is my trauma. The truth is my trauma. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Now, I will say this, that I would have stayed inactive, but I have a small child. And her, my ex, who's a narcissist, long story short, he was so happy and thrilled that I stopped going to the Kingdom Hall because he can go and he could date a whole bunch of other sisters. Yeah, even though he wasn't supposed to, right? Because he still was not free to marry. But he went around secretly dating other women. And when he finally decided to marry the one he's married to now, the elders just put him on private reproof, which was shocking to me because it made everyone think that I committed adultery, right? You know, in the way of our religion, if you are divorced, which I got punished for divorcing him, even though I divorced him for domestic violence. You're not free to pursue a third party, right? That's in our teachings. So what they did with him at the hall he was going to was just put him on public reproof. And that's a whole other story in itself. The fact that my children, 2 out of the 3, my oldest daughter doesn't live with me. They don't even see their dad. And he's a faithful witness, really. So that's another story in itself. But so why don't I just leave? Let me explain, Ruby. I was inactive for 2 years, just kind of ruminating. And what made me make an attempt to go back to the Kingdom Hall in the first place was my youngest baby girl. She said to me, when she found out that her dad was getting married, she was devastated. She realized that he wasn't the person she thought he was. And this baby girl is only like 10. And she says to me, I don't want to go to the hall anymore. She wanted me to say to her, well, stay home with me. Well, keep in mind, which is another reason why long term, I want to do like some type of foundation for women, because we were still co-parenting. You can't co-parent with a narcissist, but co-parenting at that time, right? So she was still seeing him and things like that. And she needed help, and I just said to her, well, how would you feel if I went back to the hall? And she said, protected. Because at that time, they were only going with their dad at that time. So I made the decision to attempt to go back, not realizing that I was triggering myself. I didn't understand for a very long time just how triggered I was. So I made an attempt to go back, and I don't regret that. I feel like it helped my daughter have just a little bit of a better footing on some things. Definitely, it was the right decision for my 20-year-old son because he found that thing he's baptized. My 2 oldest are baptized. He found at this new hall that we went to, he found what he needed for support. So I'm grateful for that. My baby girl is a whole other story in itself because I can see just how traumatized she is and that she has religious trauma too. Long story. I'm being long-winded, Ruby. I'm sorry. I'm trying to answer your question. Why not just leave? That's the question. Why not just leave? This is traumatizing you.
It's a toxic environment. Right. That's one of the comments. It's a very toxic environment.
Exactly. It is not safe for me. It is toxic. Why not leave? Well, I really do believe in many of the core beliefs. I do. I believe in the, so the policies and the procedures. Now all of a sudden we can have beards, Come on now, who we fooling? Okay, but when I look at just core teaching Bible, I really do believe those things.
And yet you say that you can't read the Bible because you associate it with the trauma. So you're betwixt and between, and you're.
That's why exactly, Ms. Barbara. That's why I'm coaching in this space starting in December, because it's literally called deconstruction. I have to figure out what I want to keep and what I want to throw away. So let me explain this to you. And this is just me saying what works for me. Okay. Even for anyone, right? This may not work for everybody else. I had a therapist. She was not a religious trauma. The kids are playing out here, some neighbor kids. She wasn't trained in religious trauma. She ended up being a therapist that we ended up ending on a bad note. But she explained this to me, and then another survivor of domestic violence explained it to me. They told me this. They said, there's a difference between your faith and your religion. And I was asked, would you die for your faith? And I said, yeah, I would. She said, would you die for your religion? And I started laughing. I was like, no. So that kind of helped me think about the concept of faith and religion and what I wanted to do. So the way I feel like this is an emerging field. Religious trauma is an emerging field. And I feel like before, the go-to advice was, if your religion is hurting you, leave it. That was a pretty popular thing. And now it seems, I'm still studying, it seems that now some spaces and some therapists, because I belong to different groups where I get to talk to therapists and students, now there's a voice, not everybody, there's a voice that's saying, hold on to your faith and drop your religion. But that's not going to work for everybody, depending on how damaged you are. Some people need to not touch it at all. Some people cannot touch it at all, and it's okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's okay.
Associated with the worst possible feelings.
Yeah.
So one person said here, are not core beliefs the same? Jesus, God, love, neighbor. It's how it's organized by men that causes the stress. So you
beautifully said.
Yeah, I thought that's a good statement.
Yeah.
And some vengeance is fine, saith the Lord, says the dots. So God says vengeance is fine. You got to look at that and say, what a contradiction. Where's the love? Sometimes there's so many contradictions because we're all different, and so we look at things differently. So we don't want to take away what makes some individuals happy. Other individuals are not happy, but that's what we have. We have the freedom to decide what we want to believe, as long as we don't harm someone else.
Yes,
so,
yes. Barbara, can I share an example? Can I share an analogy with you?
Of course.
We all are different. Another person will go through my exact same story and say, well, I'm okay. I'm still at the hall. I'm a regular pioneer. I went through those things because we're all different, right? We're all different. Things are going to be different, right? And that's the issue with how we don't get validated. So I say to people, I'm going to meet you where you are. For the individuals that I'm going to be coaching in December, the rule is we normalize, validate, and support. We do not use gaslighting terms. We don't throw out be forgiving. We don't do those things. So here's an analogy from Dr. Alicia Powell, who is actually a religious trauma therapist. She has a wonderful platform, so please look her up. She helped me out really well when I asked her the question. I'm in pain, right? I'm in grief. This is grief. Please understand, this is grief. Grieving the religion. It's a process. I said, well, why is it that some people do so well? And I have to speak to that. My oldest daughter is doing great. But she doesn't understand my journey. And she doesn't really own the abuse, I don't feel, that she saw her dad, do to me. She doesn't really own. I think it's just too much for her to handle. Yes. And hopefully at some point she will, and we can have more open conversations. But I support her. And if she feels like I'm not a healthy person for her, it breaks my heart, but I still support her. And you have to do that. Like, I learned that from when Kim Saeed, she's a narcissist. She had a platform about narcissism. You got to let the kids decide for themselves. But one thing Alicia Powell said, I love this analogy. Dr. Alicia Powell, it's like a hammer. Because I asked her, why do some people do so good and some people do so bad? She said, because it's like a hammer. The same hammer that's used to destroy somebody, just tear somebody down, beat them down, will be the same hammer to build somebody else up and say, look at this house. Look at this house. I built this house, and ignore all the destruction they caused.
Yeah.
And that's how it's like high demand, high control religion or cults, right? Religions that are cults. It's kind of like, why do some people do so good and some people do so bad? I love that analogy. It's the hammer. It's the hammer. And really what we're talking about here is narcissism and religion, right?
Okay.
That's what we're really talking about. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we gotcha. Now, we got somebody calls himself 587 Maverick. Let me tell you, he said, Myra, you are so right. You are providing a custom fit, tailored life jacket, not a one size fits all.
Thank you.
True?
Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you.
They're seeing what you're doing and how you and your associates view the subject, and you don't put everybody in the same box.
You can't. Yes.
But
thank you so much.
The Watchtower does put everybody in the same category. It used to be read the Bible, and people have commented on this. Read the Bible, go to the meetings, go out and service more. It's always you, and then everything will work out. Yeah.
I tried it, and my license got suspended. Right. I tried to pioneer, and then like 2 weeks later, my license got suspended because my ex didn't pay our insurance. Yeah. I thought that was going to make our marriage better. No, so I get you.
Well, I think he was using the hammer on you.
Yeah, exactly. Clearly.
Joe and Fran said religion is a government construct of control. Faith is what humans profess and practice.
Beautiful.
So what do you say to that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, right? Because high control, high demand religion has a personality. It does. High control, high demand religion has a personality. Mm-hmm. So I see. If I'm understanding the way I am interpreting what they're saying, I get it. It's different. I'm gonna give you an example of this. This is how I lost a therapist. A therapist told me, we were kind of talking about my beliefs, and she told me, it's a cult. Get out of the cult. I said to her, I've learned kind of differently now that there are exceptions to the rules within religion, but overall, I said to her, all religion is based off of a will of power and control. That's what I said to her. I said, so if that's the case, pick your poison. And the therapist got offended by that, right? So I say that to say from that comment, I understand what they're saying. It's basically faith and religion is different. Once again, we're going back to that. Faith and your religion. The way I look at it is, if I'm in a car, my faith is everything that I can see. Everything I can see is my faith. My denomination or my religion is in the back seat. I don't need to look at it to know that it's there. It's in the back seat. So that's just another way that I kind of walk this walk that I am walking. And once again, understanding that that's what I believe, and I'm not going to push what I believe on other people. My motto is that I help women land safely, no matter what you want to do. If you want to exit, here are some resources to help you exit, right? There's literally, it's a religious trauma therapy / Jehovah's Witnesses, I believe. I don't think that's right. Something like that. They specialize in Jehovah's Witnesses. Hey, if you want to exit, here's a resource. Why don't you talk to them? I'm about meeting people where they are and help, because this is mental health. This is psychological abuse.
Well, sure, those ladies in the beginning that you introduced in the film, they weren't Jehovah's Witnesses.
No, they weren't.
No, but you were
Yeah,
addressing a common problem.
exactly. Hmm.
So, tell you, when I was exiting, and I was talking to a district overseer's wife on the phone, and I said, he was retiring. They were really up in age, and so they were in Florida, and they were out of the work. And I was in Bethel talking to her on the phone. I knew him from years past when they served Florida, and we lived in West Palm Beach in those years. So we talked about, she said her husband was so relieved he was no longer dealing with the elders. And she said he was finally relaxing. It was just trouble upon trouble. And I out of nowhere, I said to her that with difference in men and women had how they react to the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, men tend to fall in love with knowledge. It's always knowledge. And women, they fall in love with the God of the Bible that they learn about. You know, they there's an overall the overall teachings that Jehovah's Witnesses have about the world will get better eventually after Armageddon, you know, and paradise earth is dangling for you. Well, the God of that is what women are so interested in. So when they go door to door, women generally talk about that. Men, I had many Bible studies over in the past years and found that the men would fall in love with knowledge. Is that interesting? Yeah.
That's very, that's very interesting. That's very interesting.
And I see they come at this from a totally different thing. And she said to me, "You are absolutely right." She said, "I got to tell." Her husband's name was Joe too, and she said, "I got to tell my Joe. I got to tell my Joe because that hits the nail. That's what we've seen for the 30 or 40 years they were in the work in the district court." And so, and I think too that that's why these men shouldn't be in positions to hold such authority and control over the flock, over women. We don't see alike about religion anyway. So
It's so patriarchal. It's so patriarchal, male driven, and a lot of them, they can't handle it, and they're neurotic. I think a lot of the things that I personally feel like I've seen are neurotic individuals. Here's an example. Talking to an elder about my journey, and you start crying. Brother, I'm coming to you for help. I've done enough crying on my own. I don't need you crying for me. I'm trying to ask you for help, and you're crying. You're crying. What am I supposed to do with that? And that just shows the weight of you're not even able to handle. Why are you in this position if all you can do is sit and cry? I don't need that right now. I need your help. That's not empathy. This is something different that I'm seeing. Like, you can't handle it. Yeah.
And there's a good point here. Ruby's back again, and she says this. Now, listen, I'm neutral here, okay?
Okay. Right. No, anything anyone wants to ask me. Yep. Anything you want to ask me. Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you my opinions, and I say this all the time. My opinions and $3 will get you on the subway. I mean, they're just my opinions. So I'm an interviewer, and but I do have my core opinions, but they're mine. People would ask me, "Are you spiritual?" or "What's your spirituality like?" And I said, "I'm not going to talk about mine. Why do you have to know about mine? You make decisions for yourself." Well, Ruby said this. Now, go put you on the spot. Ruby's doing that. She said, "Once you realize that the core doctrines are false, it makes it easier to leave altogether and reevaluate your beliefs. You can still keep Christian beliefs and not be a JW." So it's a good point there.
You can. She's right.
Beliefs and not be a JW. They claim they're Christian. These people claim they're Christian, and so. But if you choose to believe those beliefs, that's your business.
Yeah, she's right. I get what she's saying. I just, I've considered it. I just believe what I believe. But there, plenty of people have done it, and plenty of people have exited other religions and have written books about it.
Yes.
It's another form of deconstruction. So you
Yeah.
have other people who have left evangelical Christianity and have written books, and I can't really think of any of the authors off the top of my head, but some of these people I want to study who have written about that. But yeah, so absolutely, she's right. I just kind of, believe what I believe. So yeah, but she's right. Yeah, absolutely.
She said, Culty Talk says, Myra, are you concerned that elders will find out that you're on an apostate forum? You're still reporting time. Speaking about your experience and then come after you. Well, what the heck? Can they come after you and do what?
So thank you for that question. Thank you for that question. And I'm going to put it back on them. I asked you guys very specifically for help. And what was I supposed to do? We had the conversation. I have religious trauma syndrome. I asked them and I told them, people who have religious trauma syndrome, I specifically said, what am I supposed to do? Go to religious trauma syndrome. What's it called? I think it's religious trauma syndrome / Jehovah's Witnesses. My point to the elders were they specialize in Jehovah's Witnesses, and they are all ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So my question to them is, where are my resources? That's why I'm building this community for women. I have a Facebook page that is now open. It's called JW Sisters Living with Religious Trauma Syndrome. Because brothers, if you won't help, what are we supposed to do? This is narcissistic abuse. I remember being at the assembly one year and they said, this religion is no place for narcissistic elders. And that was it. That does nothing.
Yeah.
That does nothing. That statement does nothing. And even in my journey talking to the elders, guess what? They've agreed. The brothers at the old hall didn't do you right. They've agreed. They agree. And they know about my play. I presented my play to the public 3 times in the month of June.
Wow.
It's yes. And in the first 10, they were more than welcome to come and see my play. They were more than welcome to come.
Disfellowship you again, are they? You're not afraid of them.
No.
Ruby, she's not afraid of them. Ruby,
because I've been very open, and my question to them is, what am I supposed to do? They know about my play. They know that I'm going to Indiana Western University, which is a Christian congregation, a college. We had that conversation. I said, well, brothers, if I know my Bible and my word, then what's the issue? If I know what I stand up on, me going and get this, I said, really, it's the smart decision. I'm going to a Christian college to study psychology. For me, that's a smart decision. I'm saying I can't read my Bible. I can't go to the Kingdom Hall because I'll get triggered. What do you suggest? You're not, and what do they say? We're not therapists. No, you're not therapists. So therefore, how can you judge what I'm doing in my decisions? You don't have any resources for me. Are you going to give me compensation for my religious trauma syndrome? Am I going to get a check or something like that? No, I'm not going to get no check. I'm not going to get no compensation. So I have to figure out a way to heal. Mm-hmm.
So these people are making relevant comments here, and they're triggering you to give the answers to this. And I don't think the triggering here is negative. It's positive triggering.
Yeah, I'm open to the questions, what I mean? And this is just one thing I'll be doing. I'm going to be in these spaces for the rest of my career. So, I have to be open to these questions, and all the questions are relevant and valid. So thank you for all of the questions. And I may not have all the answers. And some things I may think about and say, later on. But so I appreciate the questions. It's fair game,
Well, yeah. Well, the thinking about it, and that's important. CK said, every person that gets out of that cult can never forget it. That is how badly it was burned into your brain. It affects people for the rest of their lives, even if you try not to think about it. I have found that true with the people that I've met over the years, and there's hundreds and hundreds of. Why is it you can never forget? I was Catholic. I was born and raised Catholic, and I forgot it. But why can't you any of us forget Jehovah's Witnesses? Isn't that an interesting point? their control of us was so great that even if we weren't physically abused, the mental abuse was felt by all, even those who are still in it to this day, who go to the meetings. If you sat down and talked about this with them, they don't admit that they have problems. Oh, I admit that I have problems. I told a man at Bethel on the phone in 96, the end of 96. He had a high position, was Bethel 50 years. And I said, you know, I'm on my way out. I said, listening to these men, these elders give talks, so many of them, they're not even accurate. The statements they make are dumb. And I said, the thing I resent so much is that there's no reverence. See, I associated religion back to when I was a child. The Catholic Church it's all about reverence. You know, you go into the church and you have a good feeling. Well, I got rid of all of that when I left the Catholic Church, and I wanted knowledge, because knowledge gave me hope that it's a wonderful future. Okay. So, but as time wore on and I saw the fruitage of Jehovah's Witnesses, and then you go to the Kingdom Hall and everything's black and white according to the rules, and there was no reverence for the deity that we were even worshiping.
It's very, very interesting. It's very interesting. I was just kind of thinking about, that last statement. That's something that I want to research more and do. I want to dig deeper into the research, because I agree. There's something that just keeps, people talk about, I've read about, how I said before, I'm a PMO, physically in, mentally out. I've heard individuals say it is worse to be physically out and mentally in. That is worse. And I can agree. And I was in that space when I was in fellowship. I was in that space when I was in active, being physically out and still mentally in, and just having that.
Still sort of in that situation.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm pretty open about being, I'm physically in it. Yeah, that's true. There's always going to be an element, right? Because I have my core beliefs, right? Yeah, it's about me trying to figure out how I classify myself, and I'm still learning too. So I don't have all the answers. I just know that I'm okay with where I'm at. Yeah. I'm okay, and that's a big part of healing. That's a big part of healing.
Right? You have a personal life. You don't think about religion day and night. You are a normal. Yeah.
I'm content with where I'm at. Like, I know where I'm at. I understand my beliefs where they are. I can meet other people where they are. My niche is Jehovah's Witnesses, and in time, I hope to be able to do the same thing I'm doing for people of other religions. But that's something that I'll work on as I, get better in this field as a professional. But that's something definitely I want to do some research on for myself, because in time, I want to do my own research. I have my own questions that I want to do my own research for. But I have noticed that in conversations with people, definitely there's a strong pull, even with women who have, I'm thinking of one woman in particular who was also a victim of violence and left the organization it's years later, but she's still mentally so there. And I was kind of surprised by that. I'm like, wow, she's still so there, even though she's kind of lived her own life. So yeah, there's definitely a connection. And you know what? Some people will probably, in my opinion, contribute that to some sort of Stockholm syndrome, possibly. And I'm thinking about just, that's kind of my opinion, but yeah.
Well,
I think about that some more.
Excuse me. Never have considered about the Stockholm syndrome and what Jehovah's Witnesses do to us. It's the organization. I mean, if you have happy beliefs, they are happy thinking that God is going to punish everybody who breaks his rules. And then there are others who don't like that God is going to punish. But
Right.
and so we sort of know that we pick what we're happiest with. We're needy. Everybody's needy, and they find a place for themselves so they can be happy. And religion is a personal journey. That's what someone says. Everyone's spiritual, Deborah says, is a personal journey.
Yes.
And so that's what we're talking about here. Yours was a traumatizing journey, and but you're still a young woman. You've got a lot of years.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping. You know, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I'm hoping. I mean, I'm 41.
And
So, you know, I definitely.
Myra, the day is going to come that maybe this is not what you want for your future. Between the ages of 40 and 60, you're going to be entirely different. We think we don't change. Yes, we do change. Even our desires and our hopes and everything are different. We look back between 20 and 40, we're like different people. So too with your future. You might get to that point one day, you're going to give all this up and go another direction entirely. It's not going to be
possible. I mean, you're right. That's possible.
If you choose to stay with it because you love helping others, that's just great. So we can if Rick is around, let's get some people asking some of the questions. Do you have something else you want to bring in?
I think I've shared pretty good. I wanted to make sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Barbara, and I appreciate you for letting me be on this platform and talking to me. And even our talks we've had on the phone, I've thoroughly enjoyed our connection. I think that wraps up. One thing I want to just kind of stress on just about drama therapy as an avenue of help. I just want to mention that that's just something that definitely has been I found success with, which is why I talk about drama therapy from time to time and the benefits of it. Just to say to individuals, if you don't have success with one-on-one therapy, think about alternate therapy, drama therapy, music therapy, recreational therapy. Just because I'm so group therapy. If you are looking for a therapist and you're just not having success, try to think outside the box. And yeah, I'm open for some questions and answers. And So
Maverick said, Myra looks like she can handle the elders, beards and all. that was an obvious. I love that. Yeah, you're not afraid. That's what someone observed. Said Myra's not afraid, and you learned that they're just people, and they close the door to their house, they go inside, and they have to live with themselves. And some of them don't know how awful they really are. And those are the narcissists. They don't realize. So we go the other direction. And somebody observed and said most of the elders are narcissists. Well, I got to disagree, because so many have left because they've observed and my husband is the farthest thing from being a narcissist, and it's what we made out of the religion. The way we looked at it, we saw the good that it could do to people's lives,
right?
But it doesn't seem like it fits anymore for people's lives. It's become the opposite.
It was just also, but yeah, it's not like it's never going to be everything's one way and everything's another way. So yeah, there are narcissistic elders, but there are also some really good guys out there too. I mean, just like there's narcissistic pioneers, and then there's a lot of good pioneers. Same thing in other religions, right? You have these really, individuals who are really out there trying to do the honest things, and they don't understand the damage that they're causing. They're trying to do it and do the best they can, but it's not understanding. So yeah, nothing's ever all one way or all this way. So yeah.
But why should you be under such pressure to perform? I call the witnesses a performance religion. That's what
You
it
know,
is.
there's definitely it's definitely a high control, high demand religion.
Yeah, well, you have to,
And
if you don't perform for it, then what happens? They forget that you even exist. I mean, the more
what's a
time
good,
used to be, more time you put in. Well, it's a
that's a
performance
good
now in
point.
another direction. It's a control
That's a
element.
good That's a good point and something for me to think about because you do have like how it's changed over the years, right? You know, even you had to get a certain amount of numbers of time to be considered to be a ministerial servant, right? At one point, being a pioneer, you had to get 100 hours. Now, then it went down to 70. Then they did this little 30 thing. So definitely, there are performance and numbers were a big portion for a very, very long time.
Well, you had to get 10
Yeah,
hours in. I mean, whether, as a publisher, but now
yeah,
they don't even have publishers. They don't call them publishers. I mean, the
yes.
core thing about Jehovah's Witnesses years ago was your publisher you were a member of a religion. Now they don't use the word member. You're associate. You're an associate, so it puts all the blame on you. If you're a member, it puts the blame on them, and they want to put themselves in a position where they're not sued, so they don't have members. So everything is different, and the control element, is still there, but not like it was. The heads of this organization are trying to go the opposite direction because they keep putting out the money to pay for all of the problems that they caused because they were doing the wrong thing in behalf of the community of Jehovah's Witnesses. It was really it's a religion of that didn't care about the people and only cared about what the performance of the religion did. So
I've heard that said. In my teachings when they talks about high control, high demand religions. I've heard that statement before, where it's about the mission, not the people. I've heard that statement before.
It's about the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So there's somebody here that Culty said, I love the self-empowerment. Jehovah's Witnesses need more women like Mira to stand up and speak their minds.
Thank you. And I'm just trying to do the right thing. I'm just trying to do the right thing at the end of the day, right? And I'm also trying to find solutions for children because there's not, the research is religious trauma is an emerging field, and there's not really anything that I've found for adolescents, but thank goodness I have a coach myself, this individual who I spoke about who escaped 5 cults, who's a mother, and she has a daughter. So she's been able to give me some really good advice, but that's very concerning for me too, because just like I said before, with domestic violence, the children feel it worse. It's the same thing because your religion hits every aspect of your life. So definitely, I appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Yeah, there people who are commenting here are have given a lot of thought to these things, and so you're by you speaking out, they're speaking out. And
thank you.
The one said, "King of the Dots, women aren't fit to hold a microphone." Well, that's what they've in one of the latest elders' letters that they're counseling about. Since there's so many Kingdom Halls congregations where they don't have very many mature men, so they brought the age down to like 20, 22 years old for elders. Like one woman said on the internet, she said, why would you ever want to be counseled by a 20 or 21-year-old kid? They haven't even lived, and they're going to sit in judgment over this. Has got to go. If they want to have an existing religion, they got to get rid of this whole arrangement because they don't have the mature people who've had a practical experience, and even if they had some life experiences, they still can't make decisions. They do what they're told because that's the high control. So,
and the prefrontal cortex, the prefrontal, I can't think of it. It's not even That doesn't even close until you're 28, according to science. You know, that thinking ability and reasonability is not even
Sure.
mature.
That's right.
Interesting.
And so apparently, because there aren't enough males to hold the microphone, in some congregations they were letting women do it. Well, they came down on that now. Women can't even hold a microphone. I know. It's just going. It's really going strange because
Interesting.
you can believe. One fellow called me the other day, and I knew his father, by the way, but he said the strangest thing is the changes, the beard and the women in the pants and so forth like that. So he said, now they got problems because some of the gals are coming to the Kingdom Hall wearing such tight fitting pants that the guys are sitting there at the meeting staring at the girls in the tight pants. And so, they got other problems now that they didn't have before because maybe, they didn't think this through, or maybe they did and they thought, well, we'll get over this hump after people get used to this, Well, Carl Klein never allowed his wife to wear pants at all, even in their room. And so after he died, the first thing she did, I was told, she went shopping and bought herself a pair of pants. So, when you're under that kind of control, something's wrong. So this is not a criticism of religion. It's a criticism of interference into people's private lives. We have rights, and this kind of religion has involved itself in the human rights of too many people all around the world. And now they're not going to stand for it anymore. So let's see. The disfellowshipping, there's got to be some changes made. We acknowledge that. Would you go back to the Kingdom Hall if you saw that the elder arrangement was removed and something a little different came in, like the regular churches have,
Wow. I love that question. I mean, there's other concerns that I have though too. So let me explain. I mean, first, remember that I'm so triggered. Like, if I try currently the way the Watchtower magazine is produced, when I pick it up and try to read it, I can kind of like read power and control between the lines, and that's very triggering for me. The way that, however, the sentence I can just pick up on certain things from trying to read it. So it would be more than just that I would need to come back. But I don't think really, with how severe it is for me, because this is severe psychological abuse for me. I'm triggered by even Abigail and Nabal, the story of Abigail and Nabal, because unfortunately, so there's certain Christian, just standard and typical Christian phrases, no matter what religion would say it, that it would trigger me. So realistically, that's probably not going to be, unfortunately, a possibility for me, which is why I'm building this community, because it's like, if a person couldn't, if you're put in a position where, first of all, to heal, you have to step as far as away back as possible. Like really go no contact is the, to even start healing. It's like, what do you do? And I look at my life and I know that, and it's like, I realistically probably will never, ever be able to go back no matter what the change is, because certain just typical Christian phrases trigger me. Like I said, the story of Abigail and Nabal. And unfortunately, my mother, used that as an example for me to go back to my abuser, be like Abigail and Nabal. And it's like, Mom, I have PTSD. What are you talking about? So I can't even tolerate hearing that story, that illustration of Abigail and Nabal. I can't handle it. So there's certain standard Christian phrases or different things that are just typically Christian that I really can't tolerate. But so I mean, but maybe if in years down the line, like we said, who knows? Maybe in years down the line, if things change, maybe,
You've settled down to having a core system of belief. It's
Mhm.
yours. You own it. You like it. Where it comes from, it doesn't matter if it comes from Jehovah's Witnesses or from the Baptist church or wherever, there are those churches that don't believe in the Trinity. There are churches that have their similarities with the do's and the don'ts of the different religions. So people generally pick what they're the happiest with about a belief. So that's
Yeah.
like our system of belief is our core, and it's nobody else's business. And like atheism, it's nobody's business if people choose not to believe. They have many reasons to not believe, as those who have to believe. And
Mhm.
so as you get older, you'll be more content, won't you, with how
Yeah.
you uh, um, look at life and the
Yeah,
future.
I mean, I'm pretty stable with, like you said, my core, but I've done the work. I'm still going through deconstruction. Don't get me wrong. I still
So
have my
you're
moments.
really not a JW. You're not a JW.
No,
You,
I still, well,
you're
no,
not.
I still hold on to that. That's pretty important.
You
But I don't have to say, why do I have to say that I'm not one? Like, what's wrong with me saying I'm a traumatized person? This is my experience. If these things wouldn't have happened, then A, B, and C wouldn't have happened, right? So that's why I'm a PMO, because I'm forced to be one, right? I didn't want it to trigger. The night it triggered, I didn't want that to happen, right? When I was in an abusive situation, I didn't want to file for divorce. I wanted him to stop. He
Yeah.
wouldn't stop, so I had to do what I had to do to be safe. So no, I mean, I have a right also to classify myself, right?
Mhm, mhm.
I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. At the end of the day, I believe in paradise. I believe in those 4 teachings, and that's fine.
Yeah, sure it is.
What I mean? I'm holding on, and in the world of religious trauma, it's called deconstruction, right?
Yeah.
I'm holding on to what I personally believe, and I'm just taking away the stuff that I no longer believe in, like policies and procedures. I don't even have to believe. There's a lot of people who are literally PMOs and who are pioneers. I've been I've been out in field circle with a sister who complains about the elders so bad. She can't, but she's still going through those motions because that's what she believes. So to me, being a PMO is a very, very big spectrum. I believe that people who are at Bethel, who are insiders, are PMOs. I believe it's a spectrum. That's what I personally
Well,
believe.
sure.
Yeah, but I don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There are those
yeah, I don't have
that
to.
are more dedicated to the religion than others, and some are saying, like the one I talked to on the phone, and I said, "There's no reverence in the Kingdom Hall. It's just black and white." Right? And you know what he said? He said, "You're right." He there 40. Well, when he died a few weeks ago,
Mm,
3 weeks ago, he was in his early 90s, and
mm.
so they reach a point that they stay there because what else? That's home. That's their world. But doesn't necessarily mean that they believe every single thing. And so
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people don't. You don't have to believe every single thing. I mean, I think about some of the things that we. I mean, and look at how much has changed. I mean, I think pretty much typical. I think the average witness has certain things that they just don't believe. Right? You read a Watchtower and you go, I don't agree with that, and
yeah,
it's okay.
that's
What I
right.
mean? There's things. I remember a book when we were kids that came out, and it says something about when you're with someone so long, you start to look like them. And I remember even as a child saying, now, how is that even possible that my mom's going to look like, they going to look like twins? I was a little kid thinking, what? So there's certain things that you just go, yeah, I don't believe that. It's okay. I mean, even the witnesses themselves say we don't know everything. We don't have the answers. They say little phrases like that as well.
Well,
So for me,
they just admit that because the beliefs are passe and it's over. Nobody cares about that type of thing because it's generational culture changes and the
yeah, time
religion changes with it. So
Yeah, time definitely changes things.
it,
Yeah.
it,
Well,
it,
yeah, I don't have to say, I didn't mean to cut you off, Miss Barbara. I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. We're
Okay.
just
That's
chatting.
Okay. Yeah, but I don't have to say, oh, I'm not a witness. No, I mean, I am. Definitely when I weigh the positives and the negatives and so many things, it's like, no, that's really what I am. But I don't agree with a lot of the things that have taken place. I'm traumatized. And it's okay for me to say, look,
Yeah.
this is what happened to me. I am traumatized. And if A, B, and C would not have happened, I wouldn't be here. Do I think that I'm gonna cause this big ripple effect? There's gonna be this big aha moment or something like that? No. But do I believe that I may be able to help just a few people in my lifetime? Yes. And definitely make a difference in the lives of my
Well,
children, of course, more importantly.
one thing you gotta say, Myra, Jehovah's Witnesses don't have members. They don't
They have
have members.
you said they have associates.
That's right. So
They have
you're
associates.
not a member of Jehovah's Witnesses.
I'm an associate. Okay. You know what? I'm an associate. You're right. Right. Thank you.
You're an
Thank you for
associate
clarifying
of
that. I'm an
Jehovah's
associate. I'm an
Witnesses.
associate. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
You're in the in group now because you say the right words and expressions of the
Mm-hmm.
witnesses, and that's okay.
I didn't catch it at first. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yep. So yeah, I'm
And
gonna have to keep that one in mind. Yes.
yeah, you got to keep up with these changes. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, we really have enjoyed your openness, and we've
Mhm.
all learned from
Thank
you, and we
thank you.
learned that there's things going on by people like you
Thank you.
who have enough love in their hearts to help others with trauma and the
Thank you.
religion
Thank you.
trauma. And I read 2 articles today. I wish I had. I didn't even think about it, but 2 articles about in the mega churches in the province of child sexual abuse, and some of the ministers are the ones that are committed, and now they're leaving. They're being thrown out, and one woman said, when I read the article, she said she's leaving religion entirely. She's not going back because someone said, well, go to a small church and you won't see all these problems. She said, I was in a small church. That's why I came to a big church, because we had this kind of issues in the small churches. She said, and that was the heading of the article. She said, I'm finished with religion. So,
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
yeah. So,
I
she's
understand.
personally not traumatized. Emotionally, yes, because all these people, she's seen all these issues and problems, and this major minister in a huge mega church is in deep trouble. And so she said she's just given up on the whole deal. So you can empathize with a person like that. She's going to need
Absolutely.
you. She's going to need you. So
Thank you. And for people like that, I want to give resources and things like that so that they can land safely. At the end of the day, no matter what you want to do, just being at peace is the goal.
sure,
Finding peace and happiness and joy in life, because life is too short. So
exactly.
yeah.
I should know. It seems it's just sped by. Rick and me, I'm even older than Rick. And so, it's just gone by so fast. I got to say, it's been an experience. But I didn't have any experiences like you had. And I'm so sorry that you had it. But
Thank
you
you.
can't
Thank
you
you.
can't blame the church or Jehovah's Witnesses for the dumbass you married.
I know. No, y'all can't do that. Right. No, he has to own what he did to destroy the family, right? So
Yes.
yeah, that's another layer. Like that's him, right? But the other layer, like there's like another layer to this. But yeah, no, I can't. No, yeah, you got that right. You got that right. I sure.
I don't know where you found it, but
Boy. Yeah,
hey,
we have to talk another 2 hours about that, Barbara. We have to talk another 2 hours about that. But yeah, and that's true. And that is true, right? You can't, yeah.
from your own personal experience, it would be very hard on you to make a decision to either marry or have a relationship with another guy. And I'm not saying that you aren't having it. I don't know your personal life.
Oh yeah, I'm never getting married again, and I'm not interested in that actually.
You know,
But I'm not like an alpha female. There's
yeah.
a lot of women who I connect with in business circles who are they're leaders in these business circles that I belong to, and they're happily married, and they go to one of them I talked to the other day, they're in Vegas. You know what I mean? So I'm not like some type of alpha female. There's a lot of great guys out there, a lot of great marriages out there. Unfortunately, I mean, it does do something to you. I'm the only girl in my family. Out of everybody who's a witness, I'm the only girl. And that does have an effect on you. You know, when you've been raised that these are the best men in the world and things like this happen. So, you know, yeah, I'm happy single.
You found a niche. You found a niche for yourself. You did.
I missed it. I missed it, Barbara.
You found a niche for yourself, a place for yourself. So
yeah, and I'm happy. Yeah,
you're happy now until you meet somebody who's charming and who you really like, and maybe you'll never do that, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, either way. I mean, either way. Right now, I mean, I'm just healing, helping my kids heal. You know, and I'm okay. You know, so either way, you know, if it happens, it happens. You know, but I'm.
Well, you got a lot of things on your table too.
Yeah,
don't you?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I'm pretty busy. I'm busy.
You have such a nice personality, and you really do. You have love in your heart for others, and you are busy. You're busy. You feel you have a calling, sort of. That's what people say, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do. They do. Yes, yes,
so,
they do.
Speaking of calling, let's call Rick so he can introduce us to some of these people who might have a question for you. A lot of times they don't have questions because we cover it all. You know, what can we covered it all. But,
okay.
Well, anyways, Barbara, let's see. We do have a lot of people on our radio telephone line. So why don't we do this? We have a great guest. Boy, I'll tell you, she's got a bubbly, sparkly personality. Her name is Mira. You've been listening. You've been listening right along. So why don't you do this? Why don't you hit *6? Those listening in on the telephone line, say hello to Mira. Let her know how you feel. Let her know that what she's talking about here can be very helpful. I mean, what it does, you know, she mentioned something that caught my attention. I've been hearing it a lot. Of course, I've been doing the program here for 20 years, but I've been hearing a lot of people suffering from PTSD in the Watchtower. And of course, Mira did mention that. I did hear that. I've been hearing that a lot as of late. This is very traumatizing. Now, another word I hear a lot of as of late, it's like a new word, trigger. I heard you say that word numerous times. People who get out of very difficult situations, things can trigger. And I'll tell you, I know a man that suffers from PTSD. And of course, it was from Vietnam. But if he hears a firecracker go off, it triggers him. It just he just thinks it's guns shooting at him. So, you know, it's a real thing. For many years, I'm sure there were many psychiatrists and psychologists that might not really come to grips with it. But even the United States Selective Service, the Marines, the Army, the Navy, they're all realizing now they used to, when people came out from traumatic experiences like in the war, before they just had the term shell shocked. And a lot of these people, they couldn't even function in life. They were so traumatized from being in the war that now, of course, the government recognizes that these people are suffering a known mental disorder that, of course, is PTSD, and many witnesses are feeling that. So let's do. Have you been listening in here? Did you like what you heard here tonight? Well, here's what you do. You come on. You hit *6 on your telephone pad. Say hello to Mira. Don't be a stranger. Now, let me go back here and take a look. You are able to unmute yourself. All you have to do is hit *6. How about you? Did you suffer from PTSD? Do you have flashbacks of bad experiences in the Watchtower? Well, come on, share your story with us. Don't be bashful. Geez, we had a hard time even getting some people in earlier on the program, but there's a number of people in here tonight. Come on, we got people calling in from all over the country, from the upper Midwest. We got them down in the South. We got them actually in other parts of the world as well. Well, come on, just go ahead and speak up. Say hello to Myra. Say hello to Barbara. And I'll tell you what, I think it's good that you can do that. That's one reason why I keep this telephone line open. But if we don't start hearing from people, I might just have to just go to YouTube. I want to hear from you folks. Barbara wants to hear from you. So go ahead, speak up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
While you're waiting on somebody, somebody said, has Myra mentioned EMDR for traumatized ex-Jehovah's Witnesses? What in the world is EMDR?
You know what? I do not know what that acronym actually stands for. No, I didn't mention it, but that is it's very popular. EDMR. That's something that I have chosen not to do. So you remember I'm a coach in this space, a student, not a therapist. But with EDMR, it's a way that they are able to tap into your like subconscious level and do certain things. Like an example is like they can click something by your ear and just do different things to help you kind of go into traumatized spaces that make you feel very uncomfortable and talk you through certain aspects of your trauma. Now, for me, that's the beauty of drama therapy, because it puts me back in those spaces of trauma and I'm able to act it out and for me, that's somatic processing, when I'm using my body and then in my play, I become the characters and I speak that, right? At a certain point, I'm Calvin and I'm speaking from this angry place and acting out some of the things that he did to me. So yeah, EDMR is a very popular form of treatment. I hear a lot of great things about it. I hear, repeatedly about other therapists that are going to get the training, in different spaces that I belong to. So I hear lots of great things.
Well, that's interesting. Hey, I'm gonna mention this, that you'd like, if anyone wants to be a major sponsor of you in what you're going to be doing with your, what would you call it, your drama?
Yeah.
You have sponsorship packages, and your email is myra@myracassidy.com. And
yes.
if they would like to see a portion of your play, you can tell them where they can look if they want to write you. And you sent me a short video showing you in the drama position.
Yeah, I did.
It was fascinating.
Thank you, Miss Barbara. Yeah, yes, definitely. If anyone wants to support, I would love that. Definitely for what I'm doing is going to be doing a tour of the Midwest, this play, and also a documentary be produced. Because what I'm trying to do is talk about religious trauma and raise awareness. And the whole point is, the goal is this: for anybody to relate, no matter what religion they belong to, and no matter what pathway they choose, whether they decide to stay religious or non-religious. What I'll be doing in this documentary is not only acting out the play, but also you'll hear from the experts on these types of topics. But yes, this is a project that will kick off next summer. And yeah, I'm looking for sponsors. So if you're interested, please email me and I'll get you the needed information and talk to you more about how to get involved. And I appreciate the support as well. Yes.
It was fascinating to me when I first talked to you and you said it's, of course, I don't know what I'm talking about with what you're doing, but it was fascinating when you said that this kind of acting it out brings both sides of the brain together, the trauma, because when you're in a state of trauma, after a while, you can't reason on this, so you can't work it out. And they have found out who they are, I don't know, but those who are in this business of figuring out the brain, okay, let's call it that. And one side of the brain and the other side of the brain, the right and the left, are not cooperating together. And so the drama helps bring that together. And I thought that was fascinating. And then when I saw that little, I wish we had shown it, you acting it out on the stage. And it's different than anything that's old. The old way, nobody would do things like that, but now it works. They're seeing things that are working for people instead of just sitting and talking like we are. That are,
Right, there's alternate forms of therapy, group therapy, and like I said, drama therapy works for me, but still, that is an underrepresented field. And in Indiana, there's only 4 registered drama therapists. So for me, acting out my play is healing, and I have an acting coach that I work with who's helping me kind of go back. We keep on going over different scenes so that way when I present next summer, I'm speaking from a more powerful and more healed place. So definitely, there's alternate forms of therapy out there like the EDMR. So thank you so much for mentioning that because I hear great things about it. Great things.
yeah. Well, we want to hear you keep reporting in to me or however you want to do it. And in the future, I'm more than happy to tell people where this what you call it, this drama show is going to be, because you're going to be traveling, and you're going to have a contract with in certain areas to have a few nights here and a few nights there, and people can come and see. And I don't know anything more than I'm saying, because it's new, and I like to read up on more of that type of thing, and I would suggest other people do the same thing.
Thank you. Yes.
I think that's right.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I know we're having some noise and some feedback, but thank you so much.
We're not hearing that noise. No, don't worry about it. No.
Great.
The noise we're hearing is me. That's
I was like neighbors, kids playing up, stuff like that. But thank you so much. I just want to say, Miss Barbara, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for the work that you've done. We've talked about it. I found so much healing in your resources as well. So thank you so much. Rick, thank you so much as well, sir. Thank you for all that you've done. It was good connecting with everyone today, and I appreciate the support so much. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you, Myra. We really had a good time on here tonight. Thank you for coming on and being with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
We really do. Thank you, Rick.
All right. Thank you, Barbara. We'll see you in 2 weeks, Barbara. Keep standing tall. Keep waving that flag of victory. We love you. Thank you.
I am so appreciative of all your efforts that we can do this. We can have people like Myra here. And
it's been amazing. It's been amazing.
A wonderful opportunity for others. Contact me if you got something special, and we'll have you on. So, out there, there is always room for one more Myra.
Yeah, in fact, what I'd say to the audience is, in fact, if you'd like to come on this program, Watchtower Insider Barbara Anderson, if you got a real story to tell, maybe you're a Bethelite, maybe you knew Joe and Barbara while they were in Bethel, why don't you write us here at jwworldnews@gmail.com, and we will put you on this program, and you can have Barbara right next to you, asking her the questions. She'll ask you the questions, and you'll have a good time, as she always does on her program.
We've had fascinating people, haven't we? Had fascinating.
Oh yeah, Barbara, you have very fascinating people. Like I say, you do your homework here on the 6 screens. You really do. It's not easy. It's not easy getting people to come on. And look at that. Myra came on today, and she was a woman of her word. I have to tell you this, but we have 14 different programs right now on the 6 Screens Tele Network. And we have some of the people work so hard trying to get people on and come on and talk. And right at the last minute, they call up or they call them and say, well, my cat got sick. I can't come on tonight. So they chicken out at the last moment. But we want to thank Myra. We want to thank her for coming on. All right, Myra, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. And bye, Myra. We'll be talking soon.
Bye, yes, looking forward to it.
Everybody, bye.
Well, don't anyone go anywhere. We have more programming coming up right here on the 6 Screens Tele Network. We have got JW World News. Well, that's coming up next. We're looking forward to that program. And boy, it's going to be a rocking, awesome program tonight, because we're going to be talking about something that is monumental in the world of the witnesses And of course, that has to do with what's going on in Ireland right now. So what you want to do is just give us about, well, let me just talk to you as I'm doing it. I got to get the program up here. I thought I did have it. I guess I did lose it. But just give us a few seconds here. We'll get up the stream. We got to get everything together on that and put it out here on StreamYard. So give me a second to put that together. But in the meantime, I want to tell you that was an excellent interview with Barbara. She does a good job here on the 6 screens, and we really appreciate her effort. Barbara has helped so many people leave the Watchtower. And I have to tell you right now, they are hemorrhaging. They have so many people right now leaving, and I hope that you're one of them. I hope you're listening into the broadcast here tonight and you're saying, you know, Rick, I've had enough. I can't speak up. I'm afraid that, you know, my relatives or someone might hear me. But, you know, don't you ever worry about that. Sometimes you have an extenuating reason why you can't speak up. But for those that can, let me tell you how important it is if you can speak up here on the 6 screens. It makes all the difference in the world when people can hear you. They can hear you and they can say, wow, I can't believe all these people calling in and leaving the Watchtower. Friends, it has power. So by all means, if you can do that, give it a shot. Give it a shot tonight even during our program. If you can come in and talk, we would love to have you do that. Yeah, we have a number of people come in on a telephone line. We call it our radio line. And, you know, the telephone number, I'll put it up on YouTube and Facebook so you guys can see it. But, you know, call into the program and be part of it. It's an interactive program. And that means that you make the program. You are the ones that really do make the program. So by all means, if you have the courage to do so, call in tonight. Call in tonight and be part of our program. It's interactive. Well, just getting this ready for StreamYard to go up. So we're going to do that right now. Let's say, okay, why did that come up? Okay, companies. All right, for some reason, okay. I'm just making sure here we got this settled. Okay, I don't know why that came up. It just shouldn't have came up. What it is we run a platform here called StreamYard, and we try to what we try to do is bring people in via video and also via the telephone line. But for some reason, well, let's go back here and try to create this once again. It's just going to take a little time here. But in the meantime, is there anyone who would like to come on and say something? Is there anyone? In fact, I want to test the telephone lines before we do go live here tonight. Is there someone on the telephone lines now that would like to come in and just say something so I make sure we didn't get anyone calling into Barbara's program? So someone, please, if you can help me out here, go ahead and hit *6 on your telephone pad.
Rick.
Yes, who's this?
It's Eric. How you doing, buddy?
Eric, good. Yeah, for some reason, I wasn't sure the phone was working or not. So, Eric, why don't you tell people a little about your program tonight coming up?
Yeah, before I do that, I didn't, just because of my own error, I wasn't able to talk to Mira, but I just wanted to commend her on, exposing how much PTSD that it does cause all of us. I liked that she talked about triggers, because that's what goes on in my household. There's certain subjects I can't talk with my wife, certain people, names, even family members, all triggering. Really bad psychological trauma. And I'm saying really bad psychological trauma for all of us. Some people handle it better than others. Everything affects everyone differently. And I think I'm a little bit better off than Desiree, but I definitely get triggered myself too. For real. I'll tell the audience this. A lot of people don't really understand why I'm not on Facebook. I've never really liked Facebook, but the problem with Facebook is so triggering. Hey, Stephanie Medeiros, your cousin, is a suggested friends list. She won't talk to me. It's like, and then I clicked on her because I was curious, and her kids are all adults, and it's just, it's too much. It's too much to know that I lost my whole world, and there's a lot of things that can trigger. So Myra did a really good job exposing that, and I connected a lot to what she was saying, Rick.
Oh, very good. Well, that's good, Eric. No, she was a good, positive woman. She spoke real well. She did good. Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. And we're looking
forward. I was just going to conclude that this organization has hurt us so bad, more than we even know, because we're all tough, and we just keep moving on, you know. But they've done a number on us, and we're gonna talk about that a little bit tonight. Thanks, Rick. Love you, man.
All right, good man. Thank you very much, Eric. Well, that's Eric. He'll be coming on a little later on. Eric, and just hang in for your link. I'll get that link off you during the program. You might get a little late, but you'll have it, so don't worry about it. We'll do that clip you want me to play as well. All right, so let's see. We're going to go live here. Just let me take a little sip of tea, and we'll get the wheels of progress moving. Boy, I'll tell you what, we got a lot of things happening tonight, and we got a big story in the news tonight. You don't want to go anywhere. All right, let's go live. Let me first of all get out of the other video that we were on. Let's end it. We're going to end this one here. This is I'm in this studio. We're going to move to the next studio, so we're going to end this one now. Stay with